So I've been thinking a lot about words and communication. There's a huge difference between speech and text. It seems like, as a different mode of expression, it also conveys a different content. I can speak a sentence out loud and then write it on a piece of paper and hand it to you, and it'll have the same dictionary meaning, but the same significance in the life itself? I don't think so. I mean, immediately when you read something, you don't get the context of the gesture. You don't get the context of the attitude of the person speaking it. It's not attached to any person. So the words become all of a sudden more abstract, more conceptual, more generally speaking, instead of specifically, concretely referring to an actual experiential aspect of the world, as in another human being or even any kind of material object in the world. We let language build a barrier between us and reality. It's like we've caged ourselves in, or we have erected a huge veil to block us from the extreme beauty of the world. It's so beautiful that we had to develop a way to ignore it to take care of business or to take care of the future. Only human beings have the future. Only human beings have a past. So when I think to myself, who am I talking to? Because aren't I the one thinking? But no, I can think and hear myself think at the same time. So doesn't that show right there that the ego or the self or the identity isn't unified in any way? It's not. There's no localizable uh, entity anywhere. It's all a dynamic pattern of waves, an ocean that vibrates. No one's in control of the vibration. Every vibration is just a part of every other vibration. There's no director, there's no behind the scenes. There's just what there is. And what there is very simple. I mean, what there is has something to do with the fact that we don't understand any of the words we use unless we know how they make us feel. Without an emotional weight to the words that we use, they're useless. They get nothing done. They lead to no action. They create nothing. There's a thunderstorm behind me. Hopefully we'll get lucky enough to see a lightning strike over one of my shoulders. Wow, there you go. Um, and I was just thinking about how, the storms just form out of nowhere. Um, but it's not really out of nowhere. I mean, it's all this relationship between the temperature of the water and the ocean and the humidity of the air and how the high pressure systems are like banging into each other and what gets swirled up. I mean, it's all this personality just coming out of this living organism called the weather. And we can't really predict it. It's unpredictable. I mean, we can track it, but prediction, I don't think we're that great right now. We know a little bit, but our models are consistently inconsistent. I think. And it just shows how human personality is a lot. Carl Jung talked about human personality like in alchemical terms, in the sense that every human being is a certain chemical, and when we come into contact with other human beings, a certain reaction occurs. Some chemicals are very reactive, and a lot of energy is produced in the interaction between them. But some chemicals are kind of inert, and they just don't really mix very well. Others are hostile to one another. And the important thing to keep in mind about this metaphor is that when these two different chemicals or two different personalities come into contact with one another, they're both changed by it irrevocably. A reaction occurs, and they both become something new. So the idea that we each have our own stable personality, I don't know if, I mean, I'm not going to say it's not that way. I'm just going to say it's as much that as it is that our personality is a reflection of our environment, those we are around, the people we interact with. Um, so there's definitely a situational aspect to personality.